Sorry, I had a tiny issue with my last stream towards the end. I pretty much read the whole chapter, but I wanted to make sure you got the end of the chapter, so I'm just going to keep reading it slightly more. It's a few lines, and then I'll keep on going for a few more chapters. This is chapter 39, just making sure you're with me. Please be safe. At those words, Durante quietly stared at Diana. Diana realized what he was thinking about. He was probably remembering her brother, who died in the Battle of the Plains. That moment when everyone became weak towards her. Diana quietly opened her mouth. What do you think of the princess, brother Durante? Well, Durante strode past her and walked outside. What I think doesn't matter. I'm simply my lord's sword. Outside, the afternoon sun was blazing in the sky. Seeing the rays of that shining light scattered in the air, Durante recalled the eyes of the princess that he had seen once. Her face was covered in so much dirt that she was unrecognizable, but those eyes of her shone like they were alive and breathing. I only cut down everything in my lord's path. Did those words mean he would eliminate the princess if she got in Tarkan's way? Or Durante's gaze turned to Diana. Diana swallowed dryly. The lack of expression on Durante's face made him seem emotionless. It was this part of him that made her feel uncomfortable. Diana fought to squeeze out a smile. I feel the same way too. I will not forgive anything that obstructs His Highness Tarkan. Or more precisely, anything that stood between her and Tarkan. Right, Diana. Your brother was a very loyal warrior. As you're his sibling, I expect a lot from you. He didn't know if this was a warning or encouragement. When Diana tried to study his expression to get his real intentions, he had already moved away from her. That's the actual end of chapter 39. Chapter 40. Fluffy, Part 5. A guest? Aristine asked and Rosalind nodded. Yes, it's General Mukali. It was Aristine's first time hearing that name. Who is that? You don't even know General Mukali? How can you not know how much that vicious monster tormented our Sylvanus people? I'm speechless. Are you not even interested in your own country? You want to bury your bones in Irigo now? Seeing the maids take this chance to speak one after the other, he couldn't help but think. They were quite healthy and energetic. Before Aristine could react, Rosalind began to scold the maids. While the hunting dog and the wild dogs barked in the background, Aristine fell into thought. That means he must be an excellent warrior. He's most likely Tarkan's subordinate, right? She didn't know why she wanted to see her, but it was good. Tea time. She was looking forward to today's refreshments. Bring the general in. You want to bring him in? Don't do that. Just send him back. I agree. You have to slam the door in front of that kind of monster. They met Sade, startled. Their faces look a little frightened. Are you really going to meet him? Rosalind hesitated as well and asked quietly. He came to see me, didn't he? General Mukali is more of a barbarian than any other. At those words, Aristine chuckled, and I'm looking forward to it. I think I get along really well with barbarians, you see. While inwardly muttering to herself, Aristine got up from the sofa and walked over to the tea table. The maids who were watching her began poking each other on the sides. No one wanted to go eventually. Rosalind went to bring Mukali. "Greeting, princess." And soon a huge man walked into the room, his frame filling up a space in the door. Arigonians were usually quite big, but Mukali seemed considerably more so. He glanced at the maids, whose expressions were a mixture of fear and scorn. Then he took huge strides towards Aristine. She's definitely small. He could tell she was small even from a distance, but she looked even smaller up close. Even after his shadow covered Aristine, there was still a lot of space left. What princess? She's exactly like a Thamside princess that was born recently. He snorted inside. The princess probably felt intimidated when he looked down at her like this. Despite knowing that, he didn't move. He could clearly remember the day the Tham princess saw him, turned blue and screamed. Sure enough, the prince's forehead was scrunched up as he looked up at him. I guess he'll scream soon. The moment he thought that, the prince's mouth opened. Welcome. However, he said something completely different from what he expected. It gives me a headache to look up at you when you're standing like this. So please, have a seat. Dinner still leisurely suggests that he sit down. Mukali subconsciously sat down, for she gestured to. It wasn't until his butt touched the fluffy seat that Mukali realized he was sitting opposite to Aristine. He wanted to say, "Huh? This isn't it." But it was already too late. What the? He was frowning because her neck hurt? Before his doubts could disappear, Aristine ordered the maids, "Now then, get some tea for Sorry. Now then, get some tea for Sir Mukali. She's serving me refreshments?" Mukali flinched at the completely unexpected situation. Serving someone refreshment was a sign of hospitality. It also meant the guests could stay as long as they wanted. I didn't expect her to treat a sudden uninvited guest like this. Even more so, since that guest was Mukali himself. Mukali looked at the maids. They were practically fleeing the room as if they were waiting for those words. Even as they left, they glanced at Mukali, with faces full of ill-intended curiosity and repulsion. Or more precisely, the left side of his face. Every time he received gazes like that, his eye wound that no longer hurt tingled. Mukali looked back at the princess with his lips pressed in a hard line. That was the normal reaction. The princess was also Sylvanian, so it was slightly no different, right? I didn't know what she was skimming, but she would soon reveal her true colors. After all, the longer she looked at his face, the harder it would be to hide her emotions. "You came at a good time," Aristine said to him. There was no smile on her face, but her cheeks were a little flushed, and her eyes were shining with anticipation. He simply couldn't see this as a faked expression. The princess seemed to sincerely welcome his presence, and he wasn't completely wrong to think that, because just when Aristine's mouth was starting to feel bored, he made a timely visit, and she was sincerely welcomed the tea time that was bound to follow. "I heard you're investigating some man." That's right." There was no hesitation at all on her face as she acknowledged that. If this was a situation where she was chasing after another man, shouldn't she be flustered? Especially if the person asking this is a subordinate of her husband-to-be. Mukali thought Aristine might not know, so he explained. "I am Mukali, a general under the command of His Highness Thalkan." Mukali had been reliably using semi-casual speech for a while now. It wasn't that big of a deal. Under ergo etiquette, but at Sylvanian it would be considered an insult. "Oh, I knew it. You're Tarkan's person." Aristine nodded her head. Her reaction was simply that of someone who heard but another introduced themselves. Why do you ask about my investigation? Naturally, he thought he'd have to criticize her for stalking another man, to reveal exactly what kind of person she was and what she was doing to stop this marriage. He came to interrogate her about how she could do such a thing. But the words did not leave his mouth. Things were going very differently from what he expected. Oh, do you want to help me, perhaps? Yes? Thank you. The corners of Aristine's lips rose faintly. The movement was so small that he could barely even call it a smile. But for some reason, Macaulay couldn't look away from that tiny, subtle change that seemed insignificant. He could just feel it. The Aristine was truly happy. His Thamside princess was not afraid at all of the Palmside subject that was himself. Even Diana had stiffened when she saw him for the first time. He wanted to yell and ask why he should help her stalk another man. However, no. Macaulay unconsciously began to nod when he came to his senses and shook his head. Yeah, no? Aristine tilted her head, and Macaulay's tough-looking face flushed red. That's the end of chapter 40. Chapter 41. Fluffy. Part 6. Is that a yes or a no? He was hoping she would just gloss over it, but the princess continued to question him with a serious look on her face. Which is it? Macaulay's face only got redder and redder. Just when Macaulay was faking one cough after the other, because he couldn't stand the embarrassment, the door thankfully opened, and the maids entered the room. They only went to bring refreshment, but they took quite some time, making you wonder if they had been growing the tea leaves or something. Macaulay was well aware of why they took so long, because the maids were scolding as they looked at him, while their faces looked like they were about to vomit. And the moment any of them met his eyes, they quickly looked away. When one of the maids was placing the tea in front of him, the hand trembled so much that the teacup rattled, and some tea spilled out. They put the teacup down, so fast like they were throwing it. Then they dashed away like they had been standing next to some kind of monster. Frankly, the teacup was placed so far away from Macaulay that anyone would be hard-pressed to say it was in front of him. His lost left eye tingled. Macaulay pushed down the urge to press his hand over his left eye. He didn't want to let them know that it got to him. Ugh, look at that face. I suspected of a barbarian to have the face of a monster. Can you even tell if they're human or a beast? How disgusting. During the war with Sylvanus, he always had such mockery. The Sylvanus knights with shiny faces would act like they were throwing up in front of him. This card is proof of my ability as a warrior. He was neither embarrassed nor ashamed of it. It showed that he had fought fiercely and emerged the winner. However, small and cute, no tiny things were scared of him. I thought the small and tiny Than princess would naturally be the same, but Aristine was scarily telling her maids to withdraw. Does this mean she's okay with just the two of us here? Macaulay looked at Aristine like he was watching something strange. Let's not let down our guard. He inwardly mumbled as if he was making a resolve. This is the crafty princess of Sylvanus, who knows what she might be planning inside. This was all for his master's sake. Macaulay exhaled through his nose and strengthened his resolve. Good. Aristine, who was once left alone with Macaulay, looked at him seriously. He was glad that the maids quickly disappeared after she told them to leave, as though they were waiting for those words. Normally, they would have argued back, saying things like, "What are you planning to scheme with this Aragonian after sending us out?" or something of the sort. I can't let this opportunity pass. Aristine was currently in need of outside help. Honestly, she didn't want to share anything concerning the scalpel business with anyone yet. This is why she didn't explain anything about the blacksmith to Tarkan. She wanted to reveal it after they had made some progress. However, she had hit a wall now, so this was inevitable. Her handmaids were only able to keep an eye out inside the palace, so there was nowhere forward. She needed someone's help. I was still looking at Mokali, even forgetting to eat her scones and tea. So, back to what I was talking about earlier. Are you really here to help me? You still talking about that? Mokali snorted. Was she really asking because she didn't know? There was nothing in the past, present or future that would make him help a princess of Selbanus. She must think all Aragonians will move as she wishes because all the core ladies and warriors greet her happily. He had to give this young princess a clear reminder of reality. Put this firmly in that tiny head. The reason I came to hear the princess today is... Mokali paused in the middle of this sentence. Something was stopping him, although he didn't know what that thing was. Somehow I didn't feel wise to get angry at Aristine here. This was a very rare feeling for someone with a fiery personality like him. You came here to see me because... When Aristine pressed on, he opened his mouth again, this time as well. He was ready to confidently wake her to reality, but the feeling he had earlier became stronger. For someone like him who relied on his senses to preserve his life in battle, it was so hard to ignore such a feeling. Mokali frowned, frustrated because he didn't know why he was feeling like this. Just as he was agonizing about it, a thought suddenly came to his mind. And his face brightened. It's better to act like I want to help instead of getting angry. Then I can catch her red-handed. That was a perfect idea. He must have been getting the feeling because of this. Sure enough, his intuition was always reliable. As you said, Princess, I came here to help you investigate that man. I knew it. Aristine nodded her head. The fact that she was investigating someone was no secret in itself. Even if she wanted to keep it a secret, she couldn't. For some reason, Tarkan did not want to cooperate. So she had to use the core ladies in the palace to search. It was common for one's master or mistress to ask about people they had seen in a banquet, so the core ladies didn't really care. Most of all because Aristine had asked in front of Tarkan. It was no different from Tarkan, turning a blind eye. No one was able to do anything without Tarkan's permission. Since that was the situation, she didn't care that Mokali knew about her investigation. But no one knows why I'm paying attention to this, or why I'm investigating. So she wanted to keep it that way, if possible. Frankly, it was obvious why Mokali, a subordinate of Tarkan, suddenly came to find her and offer his help. Seriously, Tarkan, after acting all stubborn and uninterested, he must be feeling sorry now. Tarkan must have ordered it. What other reason could there be? Gosh, he's just shy. Of course, since she was getting help, she might need to give Mokali some information. And since Tarkan said him, the information would also enter Tarkan's ears. I can put up with that much. Besides, Tarkan and I are partners, and I'm glad I can get to help anyway. With that thought in mind, Aristine turned to thank Mokali, even though he came here because he was ordered to. He was still lending a helping hand, just when she needed it. So she was grateful. Thank you. I was already wondering what to do, because my range of movement is somewhat limited. Is that so? After all, I can't leave the maids and go out of the palace alone to meet him. Your help is much appreciated. At those words, Mokali's expression hardened. Is she really going to ask me to help her meet the man secretly? Certainly he said he was going to help, so that he could catch her red-handed. But for some reason, Mokali was very shocked. Or maybe instead of shock, he could call it delight that he was going to pass the sacred meeting soon. Macaulay lowered his head, expected. Diana was right. For some reason, his mood sank a little. That's the end of chapter 41. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for today. I'll try to see if later on I can post some more. Bye bye.